Hey, welcome to a new video. Today we are at a very special shop. This is Total Car Produce Magic. TCP Magic has been at the very forefront of pushing rotary tuning in Japan for many years. And not only in Japan, thanks to their collaboration with Mad Mike, they've expanded that worldwide, creating some crazy drift cars that Mad Mike has of course used all around the world in demos, competition and crazy videos. And today we are meeting with Kawato-san, the man behind the business, to kind of understand where they came from, what they're doing right now, and where they're going in the future.
TCP マジックの川戸と言います。僕仕事始めたのが2002年なんですけど、2002年の前は普通の車屋さんで働きながらスーパー耐久っていうメカニックでいろいろそのレースっていうのを勉強して、2002年から自分のお店この TCP マジックを始めて、で始めた当初からずっとそのスーパー耐久のメカニックとかレース関係のメカニックっていうので、最初は本当にその給料がもらえるとかそんなスキルはなかったので、ただで勉強しに行かせてもらってるみたいな感じで、いろんなレースに勉強しに行って、でずっとレースのことを勉強しながら今に来てますね。
So while I really want to get going on this side of the garage with all of Mike's cool cars and Mike's son, of course, the Roadster with the 6 rotor, we should probably start on this side here, because this has been a car that I've been seeing at TCP Magic over the last few years as I've come here for various photo shoots. I was here last year to shoot for Haltech, the Mazda 3 over there. This is a very cool commission project by an Indonesian Rotary owner, a Rotary fan, I guess, basically asking Kawato-san to build what can only be described as the most perfect FD project you can imagine. So no cost spared on this thing. We'll see if we can lower it and take a look inside, and of course the engine bay, but it is absolutely sick. It runs the TCP Magic wide body kit with those crazy fenders, which is possibly one of my favorite aero kits for the FD. It's actually sitting on rays right now, gram lights, but it's just about to receive the final set that will be on the car when it's shipped out to Indonesia, which will be a set of work wheels. You can see here on the ground is the 6 rotor that has just been pulled out from the Roadster. It's going to have a little bit of a checkup. They have an issue with blow-by, so they have to figure out how to alleviate the pressures that are generated inside all the sandwich plates between the rotors. And I just cannot get over how long this thing is. You think it's straight 6s, a big long engine. This thing is absolutely gigantic. You can see in between all the rotor housings are the billet pieces that come from New Zealand. Beautiful piece of engineering here. Absolutely mad what they've created. And there's actually a 5 rotor being built in the engine room next door. We'll take a look at that in a second. So what makes this FD really cool, like I was saying, is just the way it's been put together. You know, every detail. This was a ground up project that started off with a bare chassis, was all stripped down, repainted, probably stiffened up in areas. You can see all the suspension layout has been completely redone, fresh everything. A nice set of endless brakes and rotors. And down here it gets even more interesting. There's an HGT sequential transmission. You see the Motec actuator, so it's paddle shifted, and that bolts on to the TCP Magic built 13B. You can see the Turbo Smart comp gate 40s taking care of boost control. Again, another detail here, backside of the brakes. I'll show you what the front side looks like. Those legendary endless calipers looking super sexy. And if we follow the exhaust all the way down, you'll see how it goes through a completely redone subframe, and right above it there's a carbon propeller shaft that comes out from the sequential transmission all the way down to the rear end. Over on this side you can see that the rear end has a Greddy diff cover which extends the capacity of the oil in there. You can see how the subframe has been completely powder coated and redone. The suspension arms have been restored. Beautifully done. You see the Mazda logo on the hubs. The endless lines. They've actually kept the stock rear calipers here. Of course these cars are very light, they don't need crazy brake setups. Got to maintain the balance after all. And yeah, let's hope we can lower this thing and take a look inside, and of course the engine bay. Hey, sorry for the interruption. I just wanted to again remind you guys that 70% of people that check out the channel aren't still subscribed. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button, give us a like. Really helps us a lot bring you more content from Japan. Back to the video. Wow, so clean. Perfect example of the kind of work that TCP Magic does on street builds. Running G35 Garrett. Power はどのぐらい出ます
500馬力ぐらい。
500?
はい、ブリッジポート。
Bridge ported, 500 horsepower. Pretty much exactly what you need for the perfect FD execution, in my opinion at least. And this car is going to Indonesia, right? Yeah, lucky owner. Take a look inside. Have a look at the blue stitched Bridoshito. Wow, oh, that is nice. Oh, it's Edrib. Nice, I do like this. Perfect. Interior, right down to the plastics, which of course on FDs are the first things that kind of deteriorate, impossible to find. So nice, integrated roll cage. It's a beautifully built, put together car.
最初は本当にシルビアとかスープラとかFR 車がメインで最初仕事を始めて、でロータリーはね多分5年ぐらいから始めて、そのきっかけとなったのがスーパー耐久っていうのをメカニックに行ってる時に、RX7 かっこいいよねって、まずロータリーエンジンからじゃなくて見た目が好きで。でその時はロータリーエンジンって全く何も知らなくて、本当にその RX7FD かっこいいよねっていうので始まって、でスーパー耐久のメカニックに行ってる時にその RX7 をベースに使ってスーパー耐久に自分たちで出たいなと思って、で2006年に初めてスーパー耐久というのに RX7 で参戦して、2006年と2007年、はい、フル参戦じゃないんですけど、岡山国際だったり近いところのサーキットだけ出て、そこから始まりましたね。厳しいです、すごい純正ベースでやっぱりそういうルールレギュレーションがあって、ロールバーの作り方だったりなんて言うんでしょう、チューニングパーツがあんまり使えなかったりとか、純正パーツの中でどれだけできるかっていうレースなので、やってて面白かったですけどね。
Right, over on this side is the motorsports section, and we'll start off with the Mazda 3 that Kawato-san built for Mad Mike. Of course, this car was built for Pikes Peak, did its thing at Pikes Peak a couple of years ago. Beautifully put together project, an insane car to take on board, because of course who would imagine that somebody would build a Mazda 3 out of all the cars that Mazda has. But they did it. It turned out super cool, absolutely crazy. And we'll take a look at the engine because it's absolutely wild and kind of get lost in the details. All right, we opened up the hood on the Mazda 3 and I wasn't joking, this is insane. Look at this. This setup is absolutely wild. You would never expect an engine like this in a Mazda 3. And I was kind of looking at it and realized that it's based on a left-hand drive car, because the way the engine sits, the intake of course has to be over on this side, so it means those two massive Garretts have to be there, so to counteract the balance of the driver, it's just like the perfect layout. That said, Kawato has kind of mentioned that they had to go full on custom here. All the chassis was modified to accommodate like the FD steering rack. All the subframe was modified to get the engine to sit just right, and everything you see is basically custom done. And The packaging is just incredible. You can see the intake here with that custom-made surge tank. They have opted for a mechanical throttle. You can see the Plasma Man. I think it's massive, probably 100 if not bigger mils. You can see the Turbo Smart blow valve right there in front of the intake, and the layout of the two Garrett turbos, one behind each other with their own exhaust and screamer pipes coming through the hood. You can see there's a bunch of Haltech sensors laid out across the engine bay. The engine management is all handled by Haltech ECU. Fueling is done by Ignition Dynamics. So there's a set of ID 1700s on each rotor, so multiply that by 4. So that is a lot of fuel going into this engine, potentially a full boost. And like Kawato was saying, this is 1400 horsepower easy, so insanity. You see all the piping held together with the Plasma Man brackets there, and we'll see if we can have a little look inside. Actually, you know what? We will probably end up pulling out the P1 to get some nice visuals of the car outside, and during that time we'll have a look inside, because I don't want to start opening doors against McLaren P1s. That's the last thing I want to do today. But wow. And apparently this car hasn't run in like 3-4 months, but Kawato is going to try to start it for us. I just want to hear that sound again. It's you literally feel it with your body. Like it vibrates your rib cage to the point that it rattles like phlegm out of your lungs. It's absolutely insane. So we'll do that as well today.
そうですね、そこからお客さんでそのドリフト D1 グランプリに出たいっていう人が2007年の時かな、シルビアで初めてそこからドリフトっていうのをやって、で D1GP に行くことになって、で2009年にマイクと知り合って、でそこからもっとそのロータリーエンジンっていうのを勉強したいなと思って、4ローターだったりいろんなエンジンをやるようになりました。そうですね、だからその時マイクもちょうどまだレッドブルの契約前だったと思うんですよ。でそこから2人でこういろんなね、日本のレースだったり海外のレースだったりっていうのを一緒にやっていって、だからもう今2009年からなので、まあすごい長い間一緒に、仕事させてもらってますね。最初は本当に、ここにあるように2ローターを勉強しながらレースで行っては壊して直して行っては壊してっていうのを繰り返してて、でそうやってマイクと知り合うようになって、海外によく行かしてもらうようになって、日本のパーツだけではなくてその世界のパーツ、コンピューターはハルテックだったりっていう、そのミッションはホリンジャーとかね、そういう海外のパーツを見ていいなと思って取り入れるようになって、やっぱり車も良くなる、速くなる、パワーも出る、壊れなくなるっていう感じですね。そうですね、一番好きはやっぱり4ローターが一番好きですね。音もいいし、やっぱりそのエンジンのウエイトもいいバランスです。5も6もいいんですけど、そのコンペティションで戦おうと思うとやっぱり4がベストかなと僕は思いますけどね。どっちもいいと思うけど、コンペティションドリフトはちょっと NA はしんどいかもしれないです。トルクがないのでやっぱりツインターボがいいですね。ただサーキットレースとかだったら4ローターの NA の方がいいかもしれないです。そうですね、今までやっぱりこうベースがある車、例えばFD だったりマツダ3だったりロードスターだったりっていう、そのベースがある車を改造してきたんですけど、去年マイクが作ったみたいな三浦さんのシャーシの 787D、 ああいうその世界にない車、シャーシを一から作ってロータリーエンジンをミッドシップに乗せてっていうのはやりたいですね。
And right next to the workshop is the TCP Magic main office, kind of like a little showroom for all their merch. This is where Kawato sits at day to day doing his office type work when he's not building engines. Got a bunch of merch. You got Mad Mike stuff over here, TCP Magic t-shirts, and of course Haltech being their major sponsor, as well as Red Bull. As you expect, they have a Red Bull fridge. Look what's next to this. Billet Pro. Pull one out for a little look. So it's, guys like these that are able to push rotary tuning to where it's at today. Like if you think about it, you know, a lot of the Japanese rotary tuners have stayed very, very consistent with the way they've done, you know, tuning here in Japan. They haven't really gone crazy. They haven't really pushed, you know, the tuning envelope over what they've kind of been always used to. But guys like TCP Magic, thanks to the collaboration with Mad Mike, have allowed stuff like this to really be used in Japan, and of course showing off to the rest of the world what you can actually achieve with a rotary engine. A couple of cool RC drift cars, recreation of Mad Mike's old FD cars, and this of course is a very special one for me because it had the Speed Hunters sponsors, and of course right at the front there. This was a very special car. I got to shoot this many times here in Japan, but always will bring so many memories back. And dotted around the entire office is a series of builds that Kawato has done, mainly in collaboration with Mad Mike, and all their history since they met back in the early 2000s. This, if I'm not mistaken, is Okayama Circuit, right across to their latest creations, Pikes Peak, all the images of Pikes Peak. Mad Mike doing his thing, so cool.
そうですね、マツダ3になったかっていうのは、まず僕がそのマツダさんにパイクスピークをやりたいって話を持っていた時に、やっぱりこう 4WD じゃないと戦えないので、まず向こうから提案あったのがそのマツダ3で、アメリカは4駆のディーゼルのミッション車があるんですよ。それでプロダクションクラスっていうクラスに出ようって話だったんですけど、プロダクションクラスってもうポルシェが絶対1位なんですよ。ね、だってあのまま売ってるじゃないですか。だからあれに勝てないよねって話になった時に、まあやっぱりマツダ3はベースも良くてかっこいいし、僕はあの車でやりたかったんで、じゃあね、そのもう改造無制限のエキシビジョンクラスに僕は出たいと。でマツダもじゃあいいですよって、じゃあ好きなエンジン使ってくださいって何ですかって言われた時に、やっぱ僕が選ぶのは4ローターなので、あれに4ローターのツインターボにしたんですけど、やっぱりベースが FF 車なんで、それを FR にするのは結構難しかったですね。でカスタムするのにそうです。プラスアルファアメリカのレギュレーションってすごいやっぱり安全面すごくうるさくて、 FIA のレギュレーションじゃないとダメなので、それに合わせるのにも結構苦労しましたね。マックスブーストで1400馬力、はい、ただまあレース中はそんな使わなかったですけど、車種代では1400でした。やっぱり音がね4ローターよりももっと太くて、もっとねアストンマーチンの V12 みたいなもっと太い音がするんですよ。だからすごいかっこいいんですよね。バランス取れました僕らのところで、はい、難しくなかったですよ。一緒ですね4ローターと、はい、やっぱり難しいのはね3ローターと5ローターの方が難しいです。はい、やっぱりバランスが取れないので、バランスを取るのはやっぱそっちの方が難しいかな。6は簡単でした。そうです、もともといいので、はい。
So Kawato-san is going to start the Mazda 3 for us. Like I said, it hasn't started in a while, so it might not catch straight away. But prepare your speakers, get on the volume because you might need to lower it really quick. Such a unique starter sound. Like even from this distance, I can't hear anything. apologize for destroying your speakers, but that was worth it. Oh my god. Look at the turbo still spinning.
So loud.
Wow. So loud. Oh my god. Crazy.
I like loud.
Yeah, me too. You can still see the chimney here smoking away. That's crazy. Oh my lord. I can't even imagine hearing this at full chat. All right, with the shop checked out, it's time to go into probably my favorite area here at TCP Magic, the engine build room. And since I came here last year, they have added a few extra toolboxes here, and in the corner a machine here for you know, getting bits and pieces machined in here and done instead of like relying on other suppliers, kind of bringing part of the production in-house. Over here, Kawato's next project is building this 5-rotor engine for a customer in Switzerland, of all places. And you can see how it's laid out already. Massively long engine, just one rotor short of that crazy motor in the Roadster. Over here is a 13B, very compact when it's only 2 rotors, that Kawato-san is just putting together now, or taking apart, I'm not sure, probably in for a bit of maintenance. And it's just the vibes here that really work. I love kind of basking in the vibes that shops like these have, kind of seeing what these guys do day to day, how they work, and just you get a feel for what they're all about. And this place is always phenomenal. Up until 2 years ago, the blue FD was in here. This is where the car was actually put together. So we are going to try and lower it and show you all the details, because it shows that, you know, TCP Magic really does, you know, put together some incredible street cars. It's not just motorsport, drift cars, or exhibition cars. They can really apply all their know-how into something very, very special for the street. And here's that car we just saw in the shop back in the day, probably 15 plus years ago. All right, we're going to pull the P1 out now. The thing sits so low, they have to add these little ramps here to clear what is probably like 2 centimeters, not even. But massive thank you to Kawato-san today for doing this for us. It just makes sense to have this car outside and just admire its presence. Wide-bodied, rotary-powered McLaren P1. Of course, if you guys want to see the full build of this crazy machine, you should head over to Mad Mike's YouTube channel. He did a great job of covering the, you know, all the different steps of the build, starting off when the car was actually at Lanzante in the UK. Crazy thing, barely fits through the little space here between the shutter poles. Rotiform wheels with the aero disc, and will the rear clear? Oh my god, how close is that going to be? All right, we're going to clear the rear. Wow, you can see the goodies under there. Wow, this thing has so much presence. It's just insanity to even have attempted this project. I couldn't believe it when I first heard, you know, that Mike was putting this together, and he did it. It is literally the craziest drift car ever created. There's nothing that will ever come close to this, at least in my opinion. I don't know, you guys let me know what you think. This naughty exhaust here popping out the side, tilting back. That's so sick. Just love the look of the exhaust setup with the screamer pipes coming out from the engine bay. We'll get Kawato-san to remove the cover here, so we can have a proper look at this P1 GTR in all its craziness. Look at the suspension layout. All right, we can have a look at the rest of the engine bay now that the cover's been removed. 3 rotor sitting deep under there with a custom intake manifold being fed through from the charge cooler. But it's the hot side that really is ridiculously cool. I love the twin cone filters here with the 2 K&Ns. Just look at the quality of welding around here. Massive plasma man bracket there holding the filters attached to the Garrett G T45, I believe. 900 horsepower of rotary madness. And just like all of Mad Mike's builds, you can see the Haltech computer here, the Nexus, right against the firewall. Absolute wildness here. We go from a 3-rotor McLaren P1 GTR to the 4-rotor Mazda 3 twin turbo Pikes Peak car, and then of course Lincoln's Mazda Roadster with the 6-rotor, which is actually sitting on the floor in the TCP Magic workshop. But usually this massive opening on the bonnet is where it breathes from. So 3 crazy machines from TCP Magic and the Mad Mike crew. A little label on the fuel cover saying that this runs an E85 premix, 10-to-1 mix, oil and E85. Of course, Rotaries need the extra lubrication. And we're here in the cabin now, taking a look at how it's all laid out. You can see here the Haltech keypad. You got the AP Racing adjuster for the brakes, the wheelwood cylinder, which allows the rear wheels to be locked through this lever, the shifter, and of course the Haltech display, which allows Mike to flick through countless pages of data, displays, and super cool seats. Actually 2 of them. Now this is a car I would love to be a passenger in. And over there, down on the floor, the AP Racing pedal box. Beautiful creation, top-notch quality products to create something this special. The system back here, I thought I'd take a look at Lincoln's Roadster layout with the PWR cooler right back here. Of course, drift cars do prefer to have the radiator in the back since they're traveling sideways most of the time. So nicely laid out. Pity we came here when it's getting a bit of work done to it. But I'm sure the car will stay in Japan for a little bit, so hopefully, if we're lucky, we might get to see it out in action. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's been an awesome day spending time with Kawato-san and his insane array of creations that he's helped put together and of course look after. I mean, we are literally surrounded by the best Rotaries in the world, the place that has really been pushing rotary tuning for so long. Make sure you check back soon for more, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, check out the dinodc.co merch shop, and of course you can also follow us on Patreon.